It appears that nothing will get the Trump administration and the foreign policy establishment to give up or even put a pause on their efforts to overthrow the government of Venezuela. Not even a global pandemic that is right now ravaging their own country. In fact, it seems our government sees this pandemic as an opportunity to strike out at other countries. Last week, with millions of Americans locked inside and hoping that the government would start taking decisive action to contain the virus and to pass a relief bill, U.S. Attorney General William Barr sent a team of lawyers to court to file charges not against price gougers of medical equipment, not against employers who are illegally refusing to pay for sick leave, and not against landlords who are illegally trying to evict tenants right now, but against Venezuelan President Maduro for alleged narco-terrorism and conspiracy to commit international cocaine trafficking. Barr went so far as to put a $15 million bounty on his head and offered $10 million apiece for the president of Venezuela's National Constituent Assembly, Diosdado Cabello, and other high-profile leaders. The New York Times, a publication very hostile to the Maduro government, called the timing, quote, highly unusual. But there's nothing unusual about it. It's just the latest in a string of desperate attempts to facilitate a coup in Venezuela and part of the US government's fixation on reestablishing control in Latin America. The State Department announced March would be a month of maximum pressure against Venezuela's government. Like every other tactic Washington has employed over the last 15 months, this one quickly backfired. Oddly enough, this list of targeted individuals includes Cliver Alcala, the highest-ranking former military officer in the opposition to Maduro and a supporter of Juan Guaido. Alcala, who once supported Chavez, defected in 2015 after he passed and has been linked to multiple coup attempts since. Now facing charges from the US, Alcala immediately started spilling the beans. Just hours after the charges were announced, Alcala said that he was in charge of a truck full of weapons and military equipment inside Colombia, which was seized by authorities there in early March. Venezuelan intelligence linked the weapons to 3 training camps in Colombia, where Venezuelan military defectors and US mercenaries are planning to carry out attacks targeting the Maduro government.
Teníamos todo preparado, pero circunstancias que se han venido generando a lo largo de la lucha contra el régimen generaron filtraciones desde el seno de la oposición. Aquella oposición que quiere seguir conviviendo con el gobierno de Maduro.
Alcala stated that the operation was planned with help from US advisors he had met with on at least 7 occasions, and that the weapons and equipment were purchased with money given to him by none other than Juan Guaido. Now, there's a lot of irony to this story. According to the DEA's own maps of drug transport routes in Latin America, around 7% of cocaine produced in the region moves through Venezuela. 90% of all US-bound cocaine is trafficked through Western Caribbean and Eastern Pacific routes, not through Venezuela's Eastern Caribbean seas. So if the US government was actually concerned about drug smuggling in Venezuela, they should call up their friend, Guaido, who was photographed last year with members of the notorious Colombian drug cartel, Los Brazos Rojos. Or maybe they should call up their biggest ally in the region, Colombia, which has been recognized by the United Nations and US authorities alike as the world's biggest exporter of cocaine. The whole thing exposes the farce of Washington's war on drugs efforts in South America, which have more than anything provided a smokescreen to send billions of dollars in military equipment and cash to Colombia's far right-wing militaries and government, which are deeply connected with the country's largest cartels. Meanwhile, the crippling sanctions and economic warfare against Venezuela continues, making it incredibly difficult for the government to import critical goods like basic medicines and medical equipment. The US-dominated IMF just refused a $4 billion loan request from Venezuela, saying it would not recognize the government. Venezuela desperately needed this money to purchase necessary supplies to combat the pandemic. Clearly, these economic war tactics are causing untold damage to millions of working-class and poor Venezuelans. But Venezuela, for its part, has canceled all rents for 6 months, made treatment and testing free, subsidized food boxes for 7 million families, implemented a nationwide firing freeze and will pay wages for workers in small and mid-sized businesses until September, in addition to already providing every citizen with free health care. Now, all of this begs the question, what interest do the people of the United States have in fighting with Venezuela's government? None.